Unbelievable. Katt Williams just confirmed what a lot of people have been suspecting. And it gets even crazier. 50 Cent reportedly removed 7 major names from the second Netflix documentary, centered around Sean Diddy Combs. And these aren't random names either. We're talking about some of the biggest figures in entertainment. Here's the wild part. Katt called this months ago. And now, piece by piece, it looks like everything is starting to line up. So let's get into it, because this is what you clicked for. Katt Williams has now reportedly joined the Diddy documentary, often referred to as Chaos, and he's not holding back. He's directly calling out 50 Cent, accusing him of protecting certain people and keeping key figures out of the final cut. If you remember that moment on Club Shay Shay, that line, "All lies will be exposed." Yeah, this is exactly what he was talking about. And looking at everything unfolding right now, it's getting harder and harder to ignore the possibility that he was right all along. On July 2nd, 2025, a jury found Sean Combs guilty on 2 prostitution-related charges under the Mann Act. He was acquitted on the more serious counts of sex trafficking and racketeering. On October 3rd, 2025, a federal judge sentenced him to 50 months in prison, just over 4 years, plus a $500,000 fine and 5 years of supervised release. That is the documented, verified public record of what happened in that courtroom. But long before the sentencing, before the verdict, before the trial, 50 Cent produced a Netflix documentary called Diddy: The Reckoning. Never before seen footage of Combs, behind-the-scenes clips, strategy sessions with his legal team, explosive allegations from people close to the case. Diddy's legal team was furious. They sent cease and desist letters claiming the footage was stolen and never authorized for release. They called it a shameful hit piece. Netflix didn't back down. The documentary dropped anyway. And when people watched it, a question started circulating immediately. Where are the other names? Because Sean Combs did not build his operation in isolation. He had an inner circle. People who were there. People who saw things. People whose absence from that documentary is, depending on who you ask, either a careful legal decision, a protective choice, or evidence of exactly the kind of industry protection that allowed this to go on for decades. Today we go through 5 names that are conspicuously absent from the Diddy documentary, what the documented record shows about each of them, and the most credible theories about why they didn't make the final cut. Katt Williams predicted years ago that all lies would be exposed, no matter who was involved. What he understood then, and what the documentary's omissions now confirm, is that exposure and protection often operate simultaneously. Some things come to light, others get edited out. Everything in this video is clearly labeled: verified fact, documented reporting, unverified allegation. You will always know which is which. Let's get into it. Let's start at the top. Because if you understand Clive Davis, you understand the system that made Diddy possible. Clive Davis has been one of the most powerful figures in the music industry for over 50 years. He founded Arista Records. He discovered and developed Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, and dozens of other generational artists. He has been at the center of the industry's financial and creative infrastructure longer than most people working in music today have been alive. His professional relationship with Diddy is documented. Diddy rose through a system that Clive Davis helped build and has long operated within. When reporters have pressed Davis about Diddy in interviews, there are moments, documented on camera, that people have described as conspicuously uncomfortable. What follows regarding Clive Davis's deeper alleged involvement are unverified claims. He has not been charged with any crime related to Diddy's case. Suge Knight, and we note clearly that Suge Knight is not a credible source without corroboration, has claimed publicly that the relationship between Clive Davis and Diddy went beyond mentor and protege, in ways he described as deeper than business. No evidence has been publicly presented to support this claim. It circulates because it fits a broader narrative about how Diddy rose so fast and stayed so protected for so long. The question the documentary's omission raises is the simplest one. If you want to understand how Diddy operated at the level he did for as long as he did, you have to understand the infrastructure around him. And Clive Davis is that infrastructure. If Diddy is the chapter, Clive Davis is the book. Including Davis in the documentary would have raised questions the industry was not prepared to answer publicly. And that, more than any legal consideration, may be the most honest explanation for his absence. Snoop Dogg and Diddy's relationship is documented across decades. They partied together. They collaborated musically. They were photographed together at industry events spanning 30 years. Their social and professional circles overlapped extensively and consistently. So why is Snoop Dogg not in the documentary? What follows are allegations made publicly by a named individual, Ali Carter. They are unverified. Snoop Dogg has not been criminally charged with any of what follows. We present these claims solely as her public allegations. Ali Carter went on record in December 2020, years before the Diddy case became mainstream, making allegations about Snoop Dogg's conduct that she described as more serious than what Diddy was being accused of at the time. She was largely dismissed. People attacked her credibility publicly. She was told to be quiet. She kept speaking. Her allegations, which we present as unverified claims from a single-name source, describe Snoop as significantly more protected than Diddy. She has argued publicly that the reason her allegations received so little traction is precisely because of how deeply connected Snoop is to the industry's distribution, promotion, and media infrastructure. What is observable, not alleged, is the sequence of events. Snoop performed at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2022. A man who had been publicly accused of serious misconduct by a named individual 2 years earlier, performing at one of the most watched events in American television history. Whether that sequence reflects genuine innocence, inadequate investigation, or the kind of industry protection the Diddy case has put under a microscope, is something the public record does not currently resolve. What it does confirm is that certain names generate consequences, and certain names don't. Mace, born Mace in Betha, was one of the most important artists on Bad Boy Records during its peak years in the late 1990s. He was not a peripheral figure. He was at the center of everything: the parties, the business deals, the music, the inner circle. If anyone in Diddy's orbit had firsthand, sustained knowledge of how that operation actually worked, it is Mace. And Mace has said almost nothing. Here is what is documented. It took Mace 10 years to get out of his contract with Diddy, a decade. In a radio interview where Diddy announced publicly that Mace was free to work and could do whatever he wanted, the documented footage shows Mace reacting with what multiple observers described as visible shock. He said on air, "It took me 10 years to get this paperwork right here." He added, "I ain't used to Puff doing good stuff." That is a man who worked with someone for years, expressing genuine surprise that his employer did something decent. That is the documented on-camera record of their professional relationship. After Diddy's arrest, his conviction, and his sentencing, Mace has maintained public silence about the case in a way that stands out specifically because of how central he was to that world. His silence is not proof of anything. People have the right to say nothing. But in the context of a documentary explicitly designed to examine Diddy's operation, the absence of the man who was there for the most formative years of that operation is something people are reasonably asking about. Whether Mace's silence reflects fear, ongoing influence, a legal strategy, or simply a personal decision to stay out of the conversation, the documentary did not explore it. And that absence is notable. Usher Raymond's connection to Diddy is documented and has been discussed publicly by Usher himself, in carefully chosen words that tell you something without fully saying it. As a teenager, Usher participated in what Diddy called the Puffy Flavor Camp, an arrangement where young artists lived and trained under Diddy's mentorship. Usher has acknowledged publicly that he saw things during that period that he could not unsee. He has described experiences that changed him. He has spoken about those years in terms that are consistently guarded and consistently heavy. He was the first. Before anyone else went through that arrangement, Usher was there. And years later, Usher was the person who introduced a young Justin Bieber to Diddy. That is the documented sequence. Usher experienced the flavor camp as a teenager. He introduced Bieber to Diddy years later. And he has since spoken about that period of his life in ways that suggest he carries something from it that he has not fully processed publicly. The documentary's decision to leave Usher out appears, based on reporting around the production, to reflect a judgment that what happened to Usher as a teenager was too dark for the documentary's final cut. That what he went through was in a category that required protection rather than exposure. Whether that judgment was correct, whether protecting Usher's privacy serves him or serves the industry's ongoing interest in controlling the narrative, is a question worth sitting with honestly. Justin Bieber's documented connection to Diddy is a matter of public record. Videos exist of Diddy describing having custody of the young Justin Bieber for 48 hours. The footage of a teenage Bieber in Diddy's presence has been widely discussed online and shows a young person in an environment that, in retrospect, with everything now known about how Diddy operated, raises serious questions. Justin Bieber was a child when this happened. He did not have the context, the experience, or the power to fully understand what he was potentially being exposed to. When paparazzi recently pressed Bieber about the Netflix documentary, his response was documented in brief.
Another day, another Bieber rumor, best friend. So apparently Justin Bieber was asked about Diddy. Now, this is making already headlines. I've seen some people make videos about this, so take this with a grain of salt because, girl, there is absolutely no proof to this. But apparently, he was asked about Diddy, and allegedly Justin said, "Don't ask me about that man ever." So apparently a paparazzi asked him about this. He also allegedly says that he was a child at the time and wanted to move on for his own peace. Now listen, girl, there is absolutely no footage of this. There's no videos of this. So I would honestly consider this to be false because, girl, you know damn good and well that a paparazzi does not have their camera off, okay? Especially if he's going to ask such a question. So currently, Diddy, of course, is a main topic of conversation due to the #1 Netflix documentary on Netflix, girl, that came out of Diddy. And of course, you know, lots of celebrities are being asked about this. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was asked about this. But trust and believe, if the Bieber is somewhere, girl, the paparazzi are going to have their camera on. So in my case, in my opinion, this is false, okay? These are just rumors and nastiness that is not real. But listen, I did want to say, girl, Justin Bieber has never looked happier. And you know what, honey? Tokyo is good for him. He needs to move to Japan because have you seen this man in Japan, girl? He looks so fucking happy. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And do you believe this rumor? I sure don't, because there's no proof, there's no video, there's no evidence of this. So in my opinion, this is false.
Don't ask me about that man ever. Some things I moved on from for my own peace. I was a kid. I didn't know anything. I don't ever want to talk about that again. That statement, the pain audible in every word, tells you what the documentary's omission also tells you. Justin Bieber is not an accused party in this story. He is someone who was a child in proximity to a predator, and who is now an adult trying to heal from whatever that proximity cost him. 50 Cent's decision to leave Bieber out of the documentary appears to reflect the most defensible judgment in this entire list, including what happened to a child, for entertainment purposes, under the banner of accountability journalism, would have been an additional harm visited on someone who has already paid a price he did not choose and did not deserve. Some absences from a documentary about a predator are not omissions, they are protections. Here is the honest summary of what these 5 absences tell us. Clive Davis, the industry infrastructure that made the operation possible, was too connected to the entire distribution and media system to include without potentially ending the documentary's chances of being seen at all. Snoop Dogg, whose documented proximity to Diddy spans decades, and whose unverified allegations from a named individual were dismissed for years before anyone was listening, was apparently too embedded in the industry's protection network to include without consequences. Mace, who was there for the most formative years of Diddy's operation, and who has maintained suspicious silence since the arrest, raised questions that the documentary apparently chose not to open. Usher and Justin Bieber, both of whom went through the flavor camp as young people, both of whom have spoken about those years in terms that carry unmistakable weight, were protected because they are victims, and exposing victims for entertainment is not accountability. It is just a different kind of harm. Katt Williams said all lies will be exposed, no matter who is involved. What the documentary's omissions confirm is that exposure is rarely total. Some things come to light, others get edited out. And the question of who decides which is which and why is the question that outlasts any single documentary or any single sentencing. Diddy is in prison. The investigation continues. The civil suits keep coming. And the names that didn't make the documentary are still out there. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you next time.